Welcome to Drill Down Earnings. We have quarterly results from Micron, a really interesting quarter from a really interesting company. I'm Cory Johnson, Chief Market Strategist for Epistrophy Capital Research. Micron, of course, that memory maker out of Idaho with their Q1 2025 numbers. This is right in line with Wall Street estimates, not really a beat or a miss. I guess earnings per share were a little bit better than estimates. These were certainly better than my estimates, although I had high expectations for this company. They delivered $8.71 billion in revenues, earnings of $1.87 billion, really impressive numbers here. And that $8.7 billion in revenues was up 84% on a year-over-year basis. A little less than the increase last quarter, but when you look at the long-term chart and long-term growth rates of this company, what you see is something like an Idaho ski slope. You go down, you go back up again, and do you go down again? Well, eventually, and that's the real question with these results. So we look a little bit deeper into the numbers beyond these headlines. What we want to see is a slowdown at all evident in the future? Because we know this is a cyclical business. It goes way down and it goes way up again, and then we wait for the downturn. Now, what might be different here than the cyclicality, though, is that the data center business and the AI business is so much of a ground-changing thing for them that it might have longer legs than your typical cycle. So one of the key numbers that they gave us was that data center revenues were 50% of overall revenues, up 400% on the year, and indeed up 40% from the last quarter. So very, very strong, and maybe more importantly, a change in how Micron works. And what they warn us is that the consumer market, so think of like smartphones, tablet devices, and certainly PCs, not coming back as fast as they had hoped. They think that might happen in the second half of the year. Well, guess what? They told us the same thing last year. So what's interesting here is the AI-driven stuff and their movement towards better and better stuff. Well, we'll talk about the quality of their definition of their DRAM and their high bandwidth DRAM. But overall, what you saw is they're able to charge more for their stuff than their competitors are. And so even as revenues swung back, operating margins swung way back, 41% EBITDA margins from a company that a year and a half ago was losing money on every sale, now showing great profits. DRAM dominating this business, 73% of revenues, and that NAND flash that goes into PCs and phones and automobiles and stuff like that, only 26% of the business right now. But it was a little worrisome that DRAM cooled, 87% year-over-year growth, nothing to worry about. When their guidance, however, wasn't super strong, I think the market really worried, and you saw that in the stock. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's interesting here because NVIDIA has actually bought all of their what they call HBM3E production, their high bandwidth DRAM. NVIDIA's already bought it all. There is none available to market because NVIDIA needs it so badly. And that stuff has 1.2 terabytes per second of bandwidth. We've never seen anything like this in the market before. So competitors like Hynix in Korea and Samsung in Japan are struggling to keep up with them on a technological basis here, which is also kind of new in the world of DRAM. But these 12 high stack configurations of this DRAM provides 36 gigs of ability to handle this amount of information in memory at all times. It's super impressive, 50% better than they've ever made before, and it's essential to training AI models. So the DRAM business, a high bandwidth DRAM business doing so great. The NAND business is also growing, up 82% on a year-over-year basis, but not super strong. And CapEx spending. They're spending a lot of money to get ready for the next wave already. So that over $3 billion in revenues and spending, or I should say in CapEx spending in the quarter, but because revenues are up so much, as a percentage of revenues was only 60% of revenues, or was 60% of revenues, which is a lot for these guys. But how did the stock react? The stock hated it. The market hated these numbers. It was down 16%. I think that was really about the guidance. Down 16% in trading after the results were out. Meaning for the year, the stock's up only 4%. Imagine that. You've got revenues up over 80% and the stock's up only 4%. This is the way it goes in the drama that is memory. Indeed, DRAM is the swing factor there. It's a DRAM queen. When you see the DRAM is really the thing that swings the most. NAND, and there's a little NOR flash in there, 1% of revenues. But it's about high bandwidth memory, and it's about high bandwidth DRAM memory. And on the conference call, that's what CEO Sanjay Mehrotra talked about, was what's going on there with high bandwidth DRAM.
We are extremely focused on achieving our share to be in line with the industry DRAM share in the second half of 2025. Excited, as I said, about our product and all the feedback that we have received on that product. we have highlighted that we have already begun shipments to a second large HBM customers, and also said that in CQ1, we will be adding a third large customer for HBM as well. So our momentum is continuing to build up in HBM. And this is, of course, all again built on strong product that has significant performance and performance per watt benefits here. And that, of course, helps us with respect to our momentum on the share, helps us get premium pricing, versus others in the marketplace.
So high bandwidth memory is driving Micron's first quarter results. Here's your essential summary. $8.7 billion in revenues. Growth is back at 84% year over year. And while the market didn't like the guidance, maybe worried that the cycle started to turn again, the numbers maybe aren't showing that. DRAM growth has cooled from 93 to 87%. And I think 87% is the most important number here. That's your drill down bite, the one number that tells you a whole lot. It shows you that the DRAM business is growing fantastically at Micron, but a little less than last quarter. And maybe that's a concern for some, not for me. Thanks for checking out Drill Down Earnings. I'm Cory Johnson.